You know, when you think of war, what comes to mind? Probably soldiers, tanks, raw power, right? But what if I told you some of the biggest battles ever were won without firing a single extra bullet? They were won with brilliant, incredibly detailed lies. It turns out warfare as much a battle of wits as it is a battle of might. So let's put you in charge for a second. It's 1944. Your job? Move more than 150,000 soldiers and a whole armada of ships for the D-Day invasion. And the real kicker? You have to keep it all a secret from an enemy that's watching every single thing you do. So, how on earth do you pull that off? Well, the answer is you don't hide it. You master the invisible battlefield. See, in World War II, the airwaves, the signals, the secrets were just as important as any beach. Information was a weapon. But you know what was an even more powerful weapon? Misinformation. The Allies figured out pretty quick they couldn't just, sneak the invasion across. No. They had to convince the Germans to look somewhere else entirely. And that's where we get to what is honestly probably war's greatest magic trick. This was a plan so big, so successful, it's still studied today. It was this incredible masterpiece of misdirection, a grand illusion where the stage was the entire continent of Europe, and the stakes, well, they were everything. They called it Operation Fortitude, and its goal was, frankly, audacious. They weren't just trying to cause a little confusion. No, the plan was to build an entire fake alternate reality for the German generals. A reality where the real D-Day invasion was going to happen at Pas de Calais, which, is the shortest trip across the channel. So, okay, how did they pull this off? Step 1, build a ghost army. And I don't mean just spreading a few rumors. We're talking about building a physical, tangible, completely fake invasion force, something the Germans could actually see from the sky and hear on their radios. And the whole plan, the entire thing, boiled down to this one simple idea. Convince Germany the invasion was coming to Calais, not Normandy. Every single piece of the puzzle, every fake radio message, every inflatable tank, it was all designed to hammer home one single thought into the minds of the German command. Calais is the real target. Normandy, that's just a distraction. The centerpiece of this whole illusion was something called the 1st U.S. Army Group, or FUSOG. Now, this army had it all. It had inflatable rubber tanks that looked totally real to a spy plane. It had fake landing craft bobbing around in the harbors. It even had fake radio chatter, day and night, making it sound like a massive army was getting ready to move. And for the masterstroke, they put the one and only General George Patton in charge. The Germans were terrified of Patton, so they'd never in a million years think the Allies would waste him on a fake army. Then, on the day of the actual invasion, the deception literally took to the skies. Allied planes started dropping millions of tiny strips of aluminum foil. The codename was Window. Now, to a German radar operator, this looked like a giant, ghostly fleet approaching Calais. It flooded their screens with thousands of false echoes, completely masking where the real ships were. It was just total electronic chaos, all by design. But you know what? Inflatable tanks and clever radar tricks? That wasn't even the half of it. The real linchpin, the most important part of this whole plan, came down to one person. A single, totally unlikely super spy whose job it was to personally sell this lie to the very top of German intelligence. His name was Agent Garbo. And get this, on the morning of D-Day, his German handlers were a little slow to respond to one of his messages. So he fired off this absolutely furious telegram, basically yelling at them for their incompetence. He came across as their most loyal, most dedicated agent. And the Germans? They absolutely loved him for it. But the real story is so much crazier. Okay, so Garbo's real name was Juan Pujol García. He was a Spanish chicken farmer who just really, really hated the Nazis. And his story is just unbelievable. He tried to become a spy for the British, but they turned him down flat. So what does he do? He goes and gets himself hired as a spy by the Germans. He then moves to Portugal and just pretends to be in Britain, making up all these elaborate reports using stuff he found in tourist guides and train timetables. He was so good at it that the British spies, MI5, eventually had to track him down and say, okay, you win. Come work for us. And the scale of his operation, it was just staggering. By the time D-Day rolled around, Garbo was supposedly managing a spy network of 27 agents for the Germans. 27! The thing is, every single one of them was completely fake. A made-up Welsh nationalist, a phantom Swiss businessman, all just characters he and MI5 invented. And they all sent reports confirming, you guessed it, the big invasion was coming at Calais. It just goes to show you, one convincing person can be more powerful than a whole army of rubber tanks. And here is the absolute best part, the punchline. Garbo was so good at his job, so convincing, that he is the only person in all of World War II to get a medal from both sides. That's right, the Germans awarded him the Iron Cross for being such a great spy for them, and at the same time, the British made him a member of the British Empire for fooling the Germans so completely. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Now, Operation Fortitude, it was huge, it was complex, but the basic idea? That's as old as war itself. This whole concept of using brains to beat brawn, it's a strategy that goes back centuries. I mean, look through history. Way back in 217 BCE, you've got Hannibal tying torches to cattle horns to make the Romans think his army was somewhere else. Fast forward to WWII, and you have Operation Mincemeat, where they literally used a dead body with fake plans to fool the Germans. Or in Vietnam, American pilots tricked enemy MiGs by making their F-4 fighter jets look like slower bombers on radar. The point is, from ancient Rome to the modern day, a good lie has always been one of war's best weapons.
And this all leads to a really interesting paradox at the heart of D-Day. Because think about it. While the Allies were throwing everything they had into creating total chaos and confusion for the enemy, they were at the exact same time obsessed with creating perfect clarity for themselves.
And that contrast is the whole ballgame. You simply cannot pull off the biggest invasion in history if your own troops don't know what's going on. So while you're pumping out noise and lies to the enemy, you have to have a crystal clear, reliable signal for your own side. It's a simple formula, right? Total confusion for them, total clarity for us. So while our man Garbo was busy spinning his web of incredible lies, Allied engineers were perfecting a machine designed for the exact opposite, telling the absolute truth. It was the SCR-300 radio, one of the world's first true walkie-talkies. This was the other half of the information war. See, this radio used a revolutionary new technology, FM. It cut right through all the static and noise of a battlefield, way better than the AM radios the Germans were using. So on the beaches of Normandy, in the middle of all that chaos, this little radio was a lifeline. It meant Allied soldiers could actually talk to each other clearly, coordinate their attacks, and adapt on the fly. And all this leaves us with a really big question, especially for today. The story of D-Day proves the unbelievable power of a perfect lie, but it also proves that you absolutely need clear, reliable truth to succeed. So in our world today, a world that's just flooded with information and, well, misinformation, which one is actually the more powerful weapon, the perfect lie or the simple truth? Definitely something to think about.